So there was a recent announcement with Robert Jenrick and Reform UK announcing their plans when it comes to the benefit system in the UK. And the thing is that there's a big thing about forcing mentally ill people into work. But the thing is reform cannot be trusted as a government with people's mental health issues when Farage is basically saying that mental health, or he has said in the past that mental health has gone too far. So in the middle of a mental health crisis, he's saying the mental health has gone too far in the middle of a mental health crisis. So clearly, he doesn't believe in psychology. He doesn't believe in people's mental health issues, or he doesn't care. And I've done videos on this before where the right wing and fake conservatives are on an active mission to deny psychology, to deny mental health issues, and they are basically trying to make it out as if people's mental health issues are not real, as in what they're going through is made up. They do this through like weaponizing the SCAR experiment. They do this talking about victim culture and victim mentality, where that whole victim stuff is about ignoring corruption, manipulation, and it's also about ignoring people's mental health issues. And to show that I'm not making it up, I decided to record this video with it displaying exactly what Farage and even Robert Jenrick has said when it comes to mental health. And it kind of proves that they don't really care about people's mental health issues. And through dog whistles and coded language, they basically are saying that people's mental health issues have gone too far. And you can basically read what he says here. And in a sense, he's talking about what someone else has said, but he's basically saying that he agrees with them that mental health has gone too far. He says, I have to say, Mel Stride, full of marks to you, has said we should not let normal life anxieties be classified as mental health problems, that the whole thing has gone too far. So that is Farage saying mental health has gone too far. And that is him basically trying to say that, having like major anxiety disorder or having like crippling anxiety is nothing to be worried about. There's not really a problem. And he believes we need to get a chunk of those people claiming these. We say to young people, look, you're suffering from short-term upset trauma, lost depression. It happens to every one of us in our life at some point. And actually, what you need to do is pick yourself up by, your bootstraps and get back to work and be fulfilled rather than going on benefits. Or am I saying something that sounds to you that is completely outdated? Yes, it sounds completely and utterly ignorant of people's mental health issues. And this is his way of basically denying mental health, saying that depression, like full-blown depression disorder, is something that everybody goes through. No, not everybody goes through like depressive disorder. And saying you're a little bit depressed does not mean you have depression. This whole thing has been normalized about how, depression just means you're a little bit upset, bro. And it's just like, you're not depressed at all if you don't have depression. So he's basically saying that, depression is not a big problem. So it's like he's completely ignorant and doesn't understand psychology, and he doesn't care. And he's spreading these far right-wing talking points, these anti-intellectual, these intellectual fascist, corruptionist talking points. And the thing is, Robert Jenrick isn't much better. And, in this speech he's doing, he might sound calm, but the thing is, he still can't be trusted neither. Because this is Robert Jenrick. And those people who shouldn't be getting it for things like mild anxiety, depression, tennis elbow, then yes, they will be reassessed and some of those people will see it withdrawn. So I don't trust these people to treat mentally ill people on benefits, to help mentally ill people on benefits, or even take the mental health crisis seriously, since he thinks that mental health, since Farage thinks it's gone too far. Because listen what he's doing here now. He goes, mild anxiety, depression, and then he mixes it with tennis elbow to make it sound like it's not that big of a deal. Like he's trying to make it sound ridiculous, appeal to ridicule fallacy. So, and this is just a glimpse of the right wing's active mission to deny psychology. I mentioned, weaponizing the SCAR experiment. And this is the point where I usually say, like and subscribe if you want, or whatever, but I want to concentrate on the video. But I have to put that stuff in. But clearly, these people cannot be trusted to deal with mental health, to deal with psychology, mental health problems. And, the right wing is on an active mission to spread disinformation about social emotional learning, about implementing psychological elements in schools. And they use a talking point of this nanny state, which these people clearly don't care about government overreach, if you actually know the full details of everything that they've said online. Literally trying to cancel Zach Polinsky for someone else's social media posts. Trying to think what other people have said. SCAR experiments being weaponized. Victimhood cultures about ignoring psychology, saying that people's oppression, people's neglect isn't real, which is a corruptionist tendency called disagreement is treason. You had, I think it was Jordan Peterson was saying, I can't remember how he said it. We are dealing with a complexity problem, not a mental health problem. So you can't talk about mental health and say, in a sense, that mental health isn't real. You can't talk about mental health problem, and then say mental health isn't a problem. That's not the problem you're literally dealing with. So even Jordan Peterson, who's meant to be a psychologist, is spreading disinformation around mental health and psychology. You had Andrew Tate saying that, depression isn't real. You had one of the guys from Daily Wire saying that ADHD isn't real. You have, Zuby Music doing the whole grift about concentrating on overdiagnosis. Because the reason why and the reason why that's a grift and a far right wing talking point is because they don't want people being diagnosed. Because there's three problems. There's overdiagnosis, underdiagnosis, and misdiagnosis. And the right wing talks about overdiagnosis because they don't want people to be treated with mental health issues. And even Farage was even mask off, complaining about people with mental health issues on benefits, getting extra money. When, having mental health issues, not only does it increase the risk of depression, but everyday living becomes really, really hard. And I know people that have been going to work, crying and things like that, because, they've got some sort of, depression going on, and they're still going to work. What other things have they said? Attacking social emotional learning. And quite clearly we're not doing enough to protect child psychology, improve child psychology, and they just don't want to do anything to, implement psychological elements into school. When, we need to be teaching in schools, and at home, emotional control training and resiliency training. So, reform, if they think mental health has gone too far in the middle of a mental health crisis, they can't be trusted. And, people are going to make a massive mistake if they get into power. I did think of something else I can go into. Anyway, I keep it there. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you. I hope you take mental health as seriously as I do. And they're trying to bring back the stigma. They're complaining about people being openly about their mental health issues. There's so much, and yeah, I do have links to the videos like listed somewhere, but this is just containing the main part. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you. Thank you. Because I wanted to. That's the thing, is it's like what they should be doing when it comes to getting mentally ill people into work and trying to figure out who's capable to work and who's not, is not only do they have to be delicate when they're dealing with people with mental health, with various complex mental health issues, but it's like, what should they be doing? They should be trying to figure out what's best for the individual. And it doesn't matter what people do, right? As long as they do something that's healthy for their psychology. If it's work, fair enough, but then it's like, how much work can each person do? Forcing them to do 20 hours like they announced might be too much. Like, it was too much for me. I've tried 30 hours. I couldn't do that with severe OCPD. I couldn't do 16 hours with severe OCPD. And I struggled on benefits for over 10 years with OCPD. How many of those people that are taking advantage of benefits, how many people on benefits have got undiagnosed mental health issues, that they're not informed about mental health issues enough to even realise mental health issues within their own selves? And, they, like, yes, it's not. Yes, they shouldn't just leave people in the house. And that's what happened with me when I went on the sick with my severe OCPD, because I was only diagnosed at like 33 or so, in my early 30s, and it's just because it's really really hard to diagnose when you've been undiagnosed for that long. So I'm just wondering how many people on benefits are actually struggling with mental health issues and they don't know. And we can't solve the mental health crisis unless the government gets more involved, unless families become more educated, unless churches become, and they need to become more involved in psychology, and they need to look into their own social emotional learning. Like the religious people, whether it's left-wing Christians, right-wing conservative Christians, they need to figure out what they need to do when it comes to improving, child psychology, and they need to look into doing resiliency training and emotional control training themselves. But what the government should be doing is working with the individuals to basically figure out what's best for them. And like I was saying before I got distracted, it's like, if working is if they're capable of working, then fair enough. How much are they actually capable of working? But even if it's just, they get put on courses, and, on these courses, like I was with Workways and they put me on stuff like an art and well-being course. So as long as they're getting people to do something, and like, when it comes to people like me with severe OCPD, you need to find something interesting that is going to keep them engaged. Like, why don't they like try pushing people into politics, or like, like become an assistant or shadowing politicians and local representatives and things like that. So it's like I think would be good is if I was on Workways, and I was just put on courses like all year round, and then every 6 months, like, give me a break for like a month or two, because that's what you gotta do, and like, you gotta take mental health seriously. And I hope Farage and Reform and Robert Jenrick and all the people behind Reform, I hope they change the direction that they're going in, because if they go in this direction, they're destined to fail, like we've been seeing in America. But I don't want to go too much into that. But like, they need to be figuring out what's best for the individual, whether it's work, whether it's being put on, mental health programs, whether it's being put on Workways, being put on art and resiliency courses. I was put, I can't remember who I was put on a resiliency course with. I'm not sure whether that was with Workways. So in a sense, we're already doing that a little bit, and we need to do that more. I couldn't go into it properly about what I think they should do. I'm trying to go into it, but I haven't really structured it properly. But they need to figure out what's best for the individual. And it doesn't matter what people do, as long as they do something to help their mental health, to get them out of the house. And, I think they should be working with mentally ill people for 6 months to 8 months or even a year first. And, helping them first with their mental health, helping them go on resiliency training courses. And then after that 6 to 8 months, then try pushing them into work. And what about work exposure therapy, where you start them off on 1 hour a week, then 2 hours a week, then 3 hours a week, and then you build up to find out how much they can work. And depending on how much they work, then they get paid in that work, and that money gets deducted from their pay. And yeah, anyway, I'll leave it there. I didn't just want to attack reform and criticize reform, but also wanted to say, do constructive things as well as what they should be doing. Like, our government should be doing these things that I mentioned. We should have been doing this a long time ago. But anyway, that's the video. Please like and subscribe for more content. I really, really appreciate you. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you.